What's up, everybody? I'm Kat.
I'm Bubba.
Had a little technical difficulties, but it is
As
hot
always.
where we're going.
It's hot where fucking Facebook is going. That's it.
Well, it's not even Facebook's issue. It's Mediacom's issue.
hot
and
where
their
Mediacom is
shitty
going.
network. But hopefully next week we will actually have network cables out here, and we'll be good to go. So
We're gonna be
hopefully it'll be the last time I've had to put up with this shit.
we're gonna be jacked in and jacked off. I mean, jacked up.
Yeah. Take off your coat and jacket. So this week we're talking cellular technologies and wireless technologies and mobile technologies. And as we said in our previous cast, that didn't work because Mediacom
Because of
fucked up.
Mediacom things.
The first cellular telephone was 1973. And we got our data here. There it is.
Two gentlemen at Motorola came up with the concept of the mobile cellular phone. It was like the very beginnings of cellular. 1973 with a 4.5 pound phone. That's just not something you shove in your pocket.
No.
No.
They had a big old battery pack on there, and we were saying. I remember my buddy Perry. He Mr. Winkle, we called him Perry Winkle. And
Very, very colorful name.
He had one. We're driving to go see a stripper on a beach. She would go suntan every day on this beach, and she had a big fucking parrot that just hangs out with her at the beach, sit on the back of her chair and everything else. But he wanted to go check her out, and he got a phone call in his car. I'm like, what the hell is that? You know?
Yeah.
And here's this big ass mobile phone sitting in between the two seats, and it was pretty cool.
He wanted to go check her out.
Yeah.
Well, it took them 10 years because there was infrastructure. What are you doing?
Nothing. Go ahead.
It took them 10 years to get the first one out to the public.
Yeah.
Make it commercially available. They just didn't have the infrastructure in place. And, of course, even then it was only in the big cities.
Right.
They had to wait for, wires and towers and everything to be built
Right.
before they could get those out.
Why is this not? I hate this.
I don't know.
What are you doing?
This is what I want.
Nothing. Go ahead.
We're getting a little feedback here.
This is
To the public.
there. Mute. All right. It's so I can see the questions that are coming. What's up, Mark? All right. So we'll continue here with that. So 10 years to get it out to the public. Obviously did not have it in our little town because they still have shit service here. 30. How old am I?
Oh, yeah.
40 years later.
I remember a friend of mine in probably about 1990, 91. His dad had a bag phone that he would let him take with, when he was out and about in case he needed to call home.
Right.
But it was like some obscene dollars a minute.
Yeah.
And so it just was kind of a hands. It was strictly emergencies only,
Right.
Well,
Well, it was my first cell phone would have been in the 90s, and it was same thing. We got 30 minutes, and it cost us like $25 a month.
90, 91, that was about the end, getting towards the end of like the bag phone.
Right.
And then that first Motorola flip phone came out.
Yep, that's what this was.
Um,
With the
and-
LED display.
right.
Yeah.
And at that point, they were strictly a mobile telephone.
Right.
Of course, you could do some texting on there. But remember back then, you couldn't text someone that wasn't on your provider.
Right.
You had to text you could only text people on your provider. So
Yeah.
people were trying to align what provider they wanted so they could text the people that they
Yeah, I
wanted to
remember
text
that,
the
yeah.
most, right?
Yeah.
And then, what happened? Lots of stuff happened. I don't know. But in the late 80s, 1987, aside from the cell phone thing going on, Apple started working on a handheld organizer, PDA, a personal digital assistant, called the Newton. And they started that in, like I said, 1987. And they eventually came to market with a product in 1993 called the Newton handheld, and it was about the size of a book, the
Right.
first version of it, and it was heavy. It wasn't something you were just going to shove in your pocket either, but the idea behind it was to replace like the leather planners that people
Right.
carried from office to meeting and things like that.
Now,
And
did
it-
that run on batteries?
It ran on batteries, and it had the ability to synchronize with your computer.
I don't
So-
remember those.
The notes you took, it didn't necessarily sync with your email, but
Right.
like the notes you took would end up on your computer and vice versa.
Right. Through the RS-232 serial port, I would presume.
Absolutely. Some of them, yeah, probably
It
serial.
wasn't
9-pin
USB
serial.
yet. Yeah.
No, it wasn't USB at all. 9-pin serial.
Would
I'm
have had to
guessing.
have been serial.
Yeah. But
I use serial.
as part of that, a company started in 1992 called Palm.
Mm-hmm.
Palm Inc. And their original intent was just to develop software for the Newton and other personal digital assistants, because they could see that this was going to be a thing,
Right.
and they wanted to get, they thought they could develop better software that would,
Handheld computing.
handheld
man. Yeah.
handheld computing was the dawn of handheld computing.
Yeah. Cool.
So they started in 1992. They started writing software for the Newton. Other handhelds, there was Casio had one that
Yeah.
Tandy put out. I think I don't
I
remember. if there was
remember
another-
having something before this stuff, but it wasn't. It literally was like a device that I could type stuff in and save to, but I couldn't sync it to anything. And that had to have been around the same time, but it wasn't. It wasn't useful to me because I had to still transfer everything by hand
right.
to paper. So
Right.
yeah. So I don't remember what that thing was, but
So then, 1993, the Newton is generally available. Sales are slow.
Right.
It's like a $1,500 device, and
it's Apple.
It's Apple,
Nothing
and
in
it's
Apple's
and
cheap.
it's small, so small components are expensive, more expansiver, and it just was slow to take off. But in the meantime, Palm Inc. starts development on their own OS and hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1996, we get the first Palm Pilot, which was
God, I didn't realize that would have been the first. I would have had mine in '98.
yeah.
The first
I
one.
had one of the very. I think mine was a 3, maybe.
Yeah, that 3 would have been.
But it
mine,
was a
yeah.
Palm Pilot. It wasn't. They had other variations and other names because they acquired some companies down the road.
Right.
But the actual Palm Pilot, the first
That's
one
what I
was
had.
came out
Palm
in
3 is
'96,
what I had. Yeah.
and they came with a cradle. They connected to your computer via the serial port.
Yep.
Palm had written the synchronized software. It would synchronize directly with Outlook and pull your email in from either Microsoft Mail or Outlook and Exchange. Included your calendar, tasks, notes, and email.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, I remember.
It was
having
pretty
it.
cool. It was limited, though, that it didn't have any wireless capabilities. And none of these devices up till now had any wireless capabilities.
Right.
Remember, there really wasn't any wireless per se
Anything.
back then. And
Well, let me tell you a quick wireless story with that. So I worked for 3M in 88 to 90, and it was through school, right? So I was in high school, got to work with them. So they had wireless communications, and they had a 7-foot satellite inside the building with a piece of glass in front of it, pointed at the main building. So all of their little satellite buildings all could talk to the main building. And they had a guy whose sole purpose was to go and squeegee that window if it would get moisture on it, because then their communications would drop. So they had his sole purpose in life was to keep this wireless technology running. So he was like the first, real sysadmin, because he was keeping the network up and going. But he would go up there with a squeegee on like a 20-foot pole and squeegee this window and keep the raindrops out of it. It was crazy, but they communicated that way instead of having underground cables.
Yep.
Pretty neat.
And so it was that was really when wireless, because they started to see a need. Well, having this organizer in my pocket doesn't do me a lot of good if I can't see my information in real time.
Right.
Right. So,
Yep.
1998, Apple discontinues the Newton. It was just poor sales. It was too big. It cost too much. But some of the software actually ends up moving on, and you can still find it today. If you go into a Mac OS or like a MacBook Pro or whatever and go into the control panel, Inkwell comes directly from the Newton. It's the handwriting recognition.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, you have a shout out, by the way.
Who shouted out to me?
A little girl named Paige said, "Hi, Uncle
Oh.
Bubba."
Well, hi, Paige.
That's awesome. And Alicia
But,
wants to know how you know so much about this stuff.
Because I am a very intelligent man. And I like Google and Wikipedia.
Right. I'm going to steal right from Revenge of the Nerds. It's because we're nerds. It's all we think about.
That's all we think about.
Now, I'm not talking.
Well,
about
we're old
sandwich.
enough. Now it's just mobile computing.
Right.
It used to be sex.
Right. Prawn. I like prawn.
But part of the Newton software also ends up in Microsoft hands, because around that time they're starting work on a mobile version of Windows, and you end up seeing devices from Dell and HP that actually run a mobile Windows OS, and part of that software came from the Newton.
right.
Okay.
Got it.
So the late 90s, early 2000s, and Wi-Fi is starting to pick up, but they see that there's an eventual convergence of these two technologies, cellular and mobile computing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in 2003, Android Inc. is founded. And it's kind of interesting that this company was founded before Apple really started thinking about the iPhone.
Right.
So Apple wasn't the first to come up with the idea. Although Apple was the first to get a device to market.
So, who would you say was the first? Would it be Palm, or would it be Android?
Well,
Because Palm tried, they just weren't real time.
From a mobile computing perspective, the Newton was the first.
Right.
And there were other tablets like mobile contact, electronic contact
Right.
organizers and things like that, but they just didn't have some of the functionality and handwriting recognition. They had like
Gotcha.
you could type
everything
keep
in,
your
yeah.
little contacts in a basically what amounted to a big calculator.
Right. Gotcha.
But Palm does go through several ownership changes, and even early in their in 95 they were sold to US Robotics, 96 to 3Com. It's interesting to note that in 97, 98, the original founders of Palm left and started their own mobile device company that Palm later reacquired.
What was that?
Trio.
Oh yeah.
I
They
think-
had a Palm Trio, right?
Yeah, there was a Palm Trio,
Yeah.
and that's where it came from. They
Gotcha.
acquired that, and it ran a mobile version of Windows.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't like that one.
Most people didn't. Windows on a mobile platform just has never, ever taken
Well,
off.
it's bulky on a PC. It's,
Yeah.
put it on something smaller with less memory and processing power, and it just
Right.
sucks.
Right.
Unless you're running Windows 3.1,
That works great on a Palm Pilot.
So where does BlackBerry fit into this?
BlackBerry they're in the mix. I didn't look any of their information up, but I
Just
think
because Alicia had asked about that, and I'm like, yeah, I was never into BlackBerry. It just never fit for
honestly,
me, so.
I didn't even think about them because they're still around, but you just don't hear about them anymore.
Right.
They had mobile devices. They were probably actually the first to take a mobile device and connect it to a cellular network.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because,
I can see that.
I mean, 2003-ish, I know they had cellular BlackBerries.
Right.
So
And I can't remember. I had a Palm phone,
Okay.
for a while, but I don't remember when that was. It would have been
Probably
early 2000s.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably 2003 to 5.
And I would have considered that my first smartphone,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was
Right.
still basic in what it could do.
Mhm.
But it basically synced everything through cellular technology, but you got charged for minutes back
Right.
then, and so you didn't
Right.
use it.
Right.
You didn't use any of that stuff.
Yep. So in 2004, Apple begins their Project Purple, they called it. It was highly confidential, but that was the very beginnings of the iPhone. That was the project that turned into iPhone. In 2005, Google, who's, this search monolith, it decides they want to branch out. They can see what's coming. They want to make their product available to everyone everywhere. They acquire Android with the intention of, building it up quick, because by then everybody knows what Apple's doing.
Right.
Or, rumors, leaks, they're so prolific now. It's kind of part of everyday, knowledge. But back then it just wasn't as common. But, corporate espionage and,
Right.
that happens.
Woz spilled the beans.
Somebody
Pissed off-
spilled the beans.
He's pissed off at Steve.
So, in 2007, June 29th, the very first iPhone is released to the public, and just people went nuts for it. They
Right.
had a $500 and a $600 device. They were 3G capable, and they were selling. They couldn't make them fast enough.
Right. That still seems to happen when Apple releases a device.
It does. They have their fans, and people rarely switch. But it goes the other way too.
Apple sucks.
I agree. But in 2008, in September, the first commercially available mobile device running Android 1.0 is released on T-Mobile. So it didn't get off to a very fast start. T-Mobile wasn't everywhere. Like, this was like probably, I'm gonna say it was you saw a bunch of consolidation
Right.
with the cell carriers in, after 2008.
Right.
But they decided to go with T-Mobile. I used one. I thought it was cool. I never really went beyond that. I never got to have one, I had a couple Blackberries.
Yeah.
I even had a Windows device prior to that. I don't remember. It was a T-Mobile branded one through work.
Right.
But it could synchronize
I had a Windows phone, and it was the same shit that I deal with a computer.
It could synchronize my email, and it had mobile Internet Explorer on it, which
Right.
was terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
Well, better than nothing when you're on your
better,
mobile device.
better than
but,
nothing, but it was just...
But they didn't hook into Wi-Fi or anything back then either.
no,
It was just
all
mobile.
cellular, which wasn't fast then.
No, and then you had data restrictions
Right.
up the ass. I mean,
And, you hit a site that required Java or Flash, and
Right.
it just didn't work.
I remember having to take courses because I took programming classes, and we had to take specific courses on mobile programming and how to make everything small and compact so it loads fast. Because back then, speed was it. You don't want a big bulky website, so you would have a mobile site
Right.
that was stripped down with no information really except the basics, and that was
Right.
it
The very basics.
for that kind of stuff.
Because it had to be fast, so you couldn't have graphics and all that stuff. But they really had to strip down.
Fucking Bryant. Right.
What? He's on. Oh, so that's when Android comes out, and I'm not prepared to go into the detailed history of the iPhone and Android,
Right.
but those two together nearly destroyed BlackBerry.
Yeah.
BlackBerry's still around. BlackBerry is still making some pretty stout hardware, but they run Android.
Okay.
So if you go buy a BlackBerry, it's probably going to run Android or some variant of, because
Right.
remember, Android is open source.
Yep.
So anybody can take the source and improve it, as long as they're not, making money on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
They can't sell their
right.
code. Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
BlackBerry nearly went out of business.
Right.
Very, very.
I
nearly.
remember
It
that
was-
too. I mean, that wasn't even that. I mean, well, timeline for mobile timeline, it was a while ago, but it really wasn't that
Part of
long
the
ago.
issue with BlackBerry was it required companies to have a server on the inside that would communicate with their email server. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know
it,
that.
It wouldn't connect directly to the email server, and that was done for security reasons. Well, here comes the iPhone and Android, and they connect natively to Exchange, which most corporations in the world use.
Right.
A very high percentage. It's got to be.
Yeah, Lotus
in the-
ain't
in
very
the-
popular anymore.
No, it's got to be in the 90%
Yeah, I
somewhere.
would bet. Yeah.
If it's not, I would be surprised. But so iPhone and Android would, you just said I have an Exchange account or this is a corporate account.
Yep.
Here's my email address. Here's my username, password, and you're done.
Right.
That was it. But you on the management side, from an IT perspective, you lost that management capability. Yeah, I can go in and I could send a command to wipe your phone, but that's not really mobile device management. So I'm not
Google's
gonna,
got some pretty cool shit.
Google does now, and there are lots of other
Right.
companies that offer mobile device management software that help you with provisioning and clearing data from mobile phones, etc., to protect the data in your corporation
Company.
or company. But
Excuse me. I'm not bored with the topic. I'm just tired.
have Mountain Dew.
Oh no, that'll kill me. So I'm going to go to a couple questions, and I mean that's history I didn't know, and I read the wiki before we started tonight, and I didn't know half of that shit. So that's pretty cool. But so what's the good night, Uncle Bubba? What's the first cell phone you remember seeing, not owning, but the first one you saw?
The first one I ever saw was my friend's bag phone.
Right, that would have been mine too.
And
Yeah.
of course, it was Motorola. That was everybody
Everything.
had a Motorola. I mean, I don't know that there was another brand.
Probably not commercially. I mean, like I said,
Because-
military-wise, probably, but
I would assume
Motorola
they-
was the king of components back then.
right.
you know.
And wireless. I mean, they were the ones.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
and they still are. As far as like wireless goes, Motorola is still king.
Right.
And, as far as I'm concerned, but they don't do mobile phones anymore.
Right.
They spun that off as Moto, and Lenovo picked it up.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, so if you ever, there are still Motorola cell phones
Right.
with the Motorola name, but that's a licensing thing with Lenovo, and Lenovo
Okay.
makes all the hardware.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Huh. Cool. So what was the first one you used then?
It was I had a Nokia
Yep.
candy bar phone with the little nub antenna.
Yep.
Some of the candy bar phones didn't have the little nub on them, but mine did.
Some of them had the pull-out, right?
some of them had the pull out, and I had a couple that did that too. But for the
a little
you know,
later, they had none.
when it was just cell phones, I wouldn't buy anything but Nokia.
Right.
I tried an LG once and ended up throwing it in the trash.
Remember that stupid phone I had back when I met my wife? I put the American flag cover on it and all the blinky shit on it, so when it rang, it would blink all over
Yeah.
the place. And it had no antenna, so it was just an internal thing. And they had a boost you could buy, which I bought, that you put inside of it, connected it into the
Mm-hmm.
antenna, and actually made the entire back of your phone an antenna. Mm-hmm. You know, to microwave your brain
Right.
while you're macking on the ladies.
I never did that. Just
I was just into all that flashy, stupid crap, you know. But
But
my
yeah,
first one would have been through work, and it was the Motorola Flip with the pull-out antenna, you
Yep.
know. But the thing that we liked about those, because we could have got the Nokia ones too, but they were sturdy. You could drop those
Absolutely.
things, and the flip could fall off, and the phone would still work.
Right.
You know, there's nothing to it. So, but yeah, that was the first one that I got to use.
so
Sometimes I
I
gotta
had
read what these people are saying, and
I know I had several Nokias. I had one.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when the Matrix came out and the one it was push button and the thing would slide open and
yeah.
to hide the keys or whatever. I
Yeah.
had one of those.
Yeah.
And that was actually the first phone you could tether. and provide your computer with a cellular data connection.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But it was hella expensive.
Right.
You know, it was like 30 megs for $80 a month or whatever.
Right.
You know.
First tethering I remember, and that was probably that phone would have been through a USB port.
Yep.
So it wasn't tethering as we know it now. It was. It was, going through USB, and you could only tether that device. Whatever you plugged into was the only one that could run.
Yep.
So you could set. Well, I don't even know if back then you could set that device up as a network share or not. It would have been difficult.
I don't remember.
With plain old Windows, it
Right.
would have been difficult.
Right. So, and then I remember I'm pretty sure I had a Nokia with a camera in it that took the shittiest pictures.
Yeah.
You know, like
They were
a half megapixel
point.
camera.
Yeah, 0.3 megapixel was
Yeah.
the first one that I remember being out.
Yep.
And and then you got shitty phones like Bryant who doesn't focus.
Yeah.
Well, Bryant, the way you fix that, not slam the phone down, but if your phone doesn't seem like it's focusing all the time, quit drinking. Is my advice. Your pictures will turn out a lot clearer. I
That's
promise.
right. That's right.
Told you I'd have an answer. It didn't say it was going to be a good one.
So back then, people had two devices. You had a phone, and then you had your your PDA
pocket
or
PC.
your pocket PC, which pocket PC was the Windows name.
Yeah.
I had a Palm Pilot, and then
Yep.
later I had a Dell Axum, I think it was, which was a Windows-based device.
Oh, sure.
But it actually had Wi-Fi built in. I bought it in 2003, and it had Wi-Fi in it.
Huh.
We didn't have Wi-Fi at work,
Right.
but it had Wi-Fi in it. I had Wi-Fi at home,
Right.
but I never used them to their full potential because it just irritated me that what happened. I have a specific incident on the Palm Pilot. I thought it could get better with the Dell that I bought, since it was had wireless in it. But I had my Palm Pilot in my pocket, and I was in a meeting, and I looked at my calendar, and I said, "Yep, I can meet again this day." And I put it on the Palm Pilot, and I get back to my desk, and I have conflicting meetings. So now I have to figure out which meeting I got to move, and it was a pain in the ass.
Right.
It just wasn't. So I ended up selling it to Wes, who I think used it till it died.
He's probably still using it today.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he knows how to use a cell phone. Anyhow, he does.
I haven't
But,
heard from him or about him in probably 12 years.
So what was your first mobile device?
My first owned one
Yeah.
would have been a Motorola flip phone, and this was so I had one for work.
Well, just no,
And-
like a PDA device.
Well, I would have had that dumb kind of what you said, it stored addresses and some basic stuff,
Okay.
couldn't sync. That would have been my first one, but my first what I would call usable device would have been the Palm 3.
Okay.
And then my next, so I went through a phase of Nokia cell phones as well, but my next phone, because the Palm 3 was getting outdated, was the Palm phone. So
Okay.
it was a Palm Pilot, I had all the buttons
Right.
on the front, and I could do the Palm script and all that stuff,
Yep.
but I could also use it as a telephone. And it wasn't
Okay.
the best phone. It just wasn't, it was weird to hold, and, but it was functional. And
So that was your first smartphone. Smartphone.
yeah. And really it wasn't even that. It was a Palm Pilot that I could text
Right.
with without having to push a button 4 times to get the letter Z.
That's essentially what I had in the T-Mobile device, and that was in 2008, I think.
Yeah.
It was a Windows device, it was a T-Mobile, and then, as a company, we said these just aren't working.
Right.
We need to start looking at BlackBerry. And I had a BlackBerry Storm. Do you remember the BlackBerry Storm?
I don't remember shit about BlackBerry.
People think of BlackBerries,
like
they
'em.
think a screen and a little keyboard shaped device about that big.
Hey, dang it. That's it. I'm firing up.
But the BlackBerry Storm was different. It did not have a keyboard. It was a large screen. It was not a touch screen, but the screen was a button. The whole screen was a button.
Yeah.
So it knew where you were clicking, and it, so drove
Yeah.
my wife nuts because I'd lay there in bed at night and be looking at my phone, and she'd be like, "Stop clicking the phone." So, for fear of ending up with that in my rectum, I would always try to put it away.
Right.
And then I ended up with the Storm 2, which was a bigger screen. And then, what are you doing?
Showing off my Smurf cups.
We all got Smurf cups, motherfuckers. You ain't real if you ain't drinking from a Smurf cup.
Oh God, but that seltzer water's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, this Mountain Dew needs whiskey.
Yeah.
And then
4 more months.
my next phone after that was a Motorola Droid 2. Droid 2, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I had been at a family reunion and my sister had a Motorola Droid.
She was always a trendsetter.
She still is. God, better at Tetris, had the first smartphone. But that touch screen phone, that's more in line with what I think of for a smartphone,
Right. Yeah.
and these smart devices.
Yep.
What'd you have for your first smartphone then? Based on
Oh shit. I don't even know. I don't remember anymore. It would have been a Motorola probably, because they were the thing back then. But whatever was cheap, because I've never cared to spend a lot of money on a phone. I think it's ridiculous. I think what they do to
Right.
people now is utterly ridiculous.
It is.
Costs them $10 to build the damn thing, and
that? Yeah.
they market $700,
Oh.
$800 phones, and they last for 2 years until your contract's up, and then they go to shit. And
Yep.
I promise you that is programmed into the phone.
Well, I used to think so too, but I've got this Turbo that has lasted me. It's going to be 3 years in October.
Right.
So I don't know if I got a fluke or what. But
Yeah, and I cleared mine out, but it works better now. It still has some quirks, but it's better.
yeah.
But it seems like at 2 years our memory's full. Well, the phone memory hasn't gone up. Don't you dare turn off on me. So I just I think after a couple of years it's done, and I don't like it.
I forgot to mention I had a before I got into like the smart devices and Windows phones. My last flip phone was the Motorola Razr. Remember that thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Flat. You couldn't even really detect it was in your pocket, but man, that thing was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
My wife had the cool. She's always had the phones that I liked because they were indestructible, and she's a stonemason, so she does construction and you could drop it off the scaffolding, you could get it wet,
Right.
and the one she had, you could actually take pictures underwater with it. You could go underwater and take pictures. Now my kids just got the S8, Galaxy S8. They're advertising on TV now that you can take pictures underwater with that on accident.
They've got they
I'm
have
confused.
they have if I recall, they have an IPX7 rating, which is water and dust proof. Waterproof. It's like
It's so many feet for
it's
so long
many
of a
feet
time.
for like
Certain
up
period
to,
of time.
I think IP7 is 30 minutes.
Was it really?
Yeah. I'm not gonna stick my smartphone in water.
We've done it. We'd buy them and it was brand new, still under
Yeah.
warranty. Let's see if it works before the warranty's gone. If it doesn't work, then we
Right.
get another one.
Right.
And there's a lot of cool things to see underwater.
Well, I understand that,
So-
but
Yeah. A lot of fish.
do you know my luck?
Yeah.
Do you
But,
know how
mean,
I operate?
We've seen fish. We've seen cool structures. Lots of beavers. A lot of stuff underwater. So, yeah.
Oh, plenty of them.
There's Bryant reminiscing again.
The rollerball for the BlackBerry. It was like a little.
Corey, where are you coming from with these questions? You're on a roll.
Bryant's talking about the rollerball and the BlackBerry. I remember that because it reminded me of my wife's roll-on antiperspirant.
Right? Take your phone.
Yeah.
Clean up a little bit. So do you remember? I know you're not a huge video game player,
Right.
but do you remember playing any of the Nokia games? I mean,
I tried Snake, and I got like 3,
right.
And I was like, this.
Then they had bowling, and they had a cool race car game. Depending on the brand of, or the model
Right,
of
but
Nokia, had different games.
You had to pay for those, right?
No,
Or
they'd
did
come
you?
standard depending on the model, but then that's where the first downloadable apps to me came from was Nokia because you
Right.
could buy
I remember that.
extra crappy games to play on
Right.
your Nokia.
I remember that, but
and you'd
I
have
never,
to delete one to play one because it didn't have any memory.
I never played games on my phone.
So,
Be-
emulators,
prior to
gaming-
getting to a smartphone.
gaming emulators now, you can actually go out and get the Nokia games on emulators to play on your PC. So,
Well, you can get emulators for your smartphone
yeah,
now
you can.
and play Nintendo games.
Yeah, Zork sucks. Any text-based game on a
Yeah.
smartphone,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't type as it is on the stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there, Turbo Leb. No, turn left. Oh, God, what a pain.
Damn autocorrect.
So, what do you think? My friend Stu asked a question about the cloud.
Oh, the cloud.
So-
that
so-
word cloud.
Right.
Let's clear something up here. There's no cloud, okay?
Yeah.
There is no cloud. It's someone
What is
else's
the cloud?
computer. All right?
Yep.
The reason they call it a cloud is because in network diagrams for network engineers and people who know how networks work that want to keep a inventory and a layout of where all their equipment is, the internet was always represented with a cloud.
Right.
So now you can store your baby daddy pictures in the cloud, and it drives me fucking insane. I hate that fucking word.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a cloud. You put pudding in a cloud, not your pictures.
All right. So anyway, everything has its own cloud, right? I have my own cloud at home.
Right.
I have a hard drive plugged into my router so I can store everything in my cloud. But so Verizon has their cloud, and so Stu, what you're talking about, he says is he gets these notifications, your cloud is full. The way to fix that, Stu, is one, figure out what you want to back up with Verizon. I don't
Right.
back up anything but messages with
Right.
Verizon because I have a program that I can back messages up on my phone, but it's not real time. It's when I tell it to run. Uncheck everything else in that cloud. So uncheck the photos especially because you take a lot of pictures and they all end up there. Uncheck your contacts, uncheck all that stuff. Change everything to sync to Google instead of Verizon. So your Google Photos get stored, Google Contacts get stored, everything, your calendar, everything can sync to Google. I don't know on the Apple side. I'm sure they have the same thing. Apple Cloud,
They
right?
have their iCloud thing.
iCloud, yeah. So
So
on Verizon, uncheck all that stuff. If you want to save your messages, cool. If you want to save your documents, a lot of people do that. I use Google Docs.
I use Google
So
Docs as well.
Everything's stored on Google. Google is well backed up, so if you lose something, it can be restored. That's how you get space back and
here's
that
the
stupid
thing.
message is gone.
Here's the thing. What if you change carriers? You're a Verizon customer. They piss you off. You go to AT&T. All the stuff you backed up to Verizon, you may lose access to.
Right.
Otherwise, you have to get it out of there somehow.
Yep.
Where if you would just put it in Google,
Yeah.
or iPhone, or
Yep.
the iCloud, whatever on an iPhone side,
Yep.
it's there.
But you also get people, I lost all my contacts today. Well, why?
How?
Because they had them synced to Verizon, and they
Right.
didn't have the Verizon sync turned on.
Right.
So they
Exactly.
synced nothing. And even that
Exactly.
only syncs once a day. Google syncs real time.
Yes.
You put something in, it stores it, done.
That's right.
Now, the caveat to that, careful what pictures you take. Get them off of Google right away. Because anything on a cloud, this was my big cloud spiel that I was thinking about earlier today. Anything on the cloud can be hacked by a hacker and can be targeted. Look at what happened to Apple just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
All these celebrity photos leaked
Right.
that they took because someone hacked
Yep.
the iCloud. Any cloud can be hacked. So I don't keep any important documents,
Yeah,
or I shouldn't even say important. There's some important documents that I store on Google Docs, but nothing that has extreme private information on it, because I don't trust that someone can't get in there and
Right.
get that information. So nothing with my social security number, any of that stuff is on there. So
anything like that, you want to be especially careful of. Using something like Google Drive to back up or the Google Photos to automatically upload your pictures is great, but unless you absolutely have to have your pictures everywhere you go, get them out of there. Download them to your computer.
Right.
Hopefully you have a good backup solution in place for your home computer, so you don't lose that
And
stuff.
I was thinking that'd
but
be a
that's
podcast
story-
we need to talk about.
That's a
Yeah.
that's a story for a different show, but get them out of there. Get all that stuff out of Google. Use it as a temporary, as a rest stop on the interstate to your PC.
I use it
because
as a
that's-
live backup for
Yeah.
emergencies. Absolutely.
And best practice, always make sure you have two copies of everything.
Yep.
So if you have it in Google, download a copy to your PC. You don't have to worry about it.
And
if
what-
it's sensitive information, get it out of there.
Yeah, and one thing with Google too is, unless you pay for it, you don't get your high resolution photos unlimited storage. You get a certain amount of those. So, your high resolution stuff, make sure that
Right.
you save those on your computer or print them off, whatever you want to do. So, yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Brian wants to know how iCloud works if he goes through Straight Talk. iCloud is an Apple thing. So if you have an iPhone, you sign up for your free iCloud account. They give you so much storage. It's similar to what Google does. They give you an allotted storage space. If you need more, you have to pay for it, and that's optional. But if through Straight Talk, it wouldn't be any different.
Yeah, they don't care what carrier you're on. Yeah.
I always make sure, my settings are to only upload data when I'm on Wi-Fi, so it doesn't burn up my cellular data.
Right.
Although
We have unlimited data
I have,
now.
I have
so.
plenty, so
Right.
I'm not unlimited, but I think with the rollover, I end up at about 18 a month.
Right. Well, thanks to Pokemon Go, I'm on unlimited.
So do I trust the cloud? No.
I don't either.
Anything outside my walls, I don't trust it.
I'm
It's
sorry to hear that. Good to know you, brother.
well, in the
Right.
in the cloud.
Yes.
The only thing I trust in the cloud, as I said before, pudding.
Absolutely.
Pudding in the cloud.
Now with added roofies.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
So one thing, I was looking up some stuff on Wiki, and I found a neat thing. They have what's called the kosher phone. And I'm just going to read this verbatim because I don't know it inside out. But so it says there are Jewish Orthodox religious restrictions which standard mobile telephones overstep. To deal with this problem, some rabbinical organizations have recommended that phones with text messaging capabilities not be used by children. So phones with restricted features like that are known as kosher phones that have approval from rabbis. I just thought that was pretty,
That's
something I never
interesting.
thought of because,
That's interesting, and it probably was very clearly written in the 90s when people started texting,
yeah,
because people don't text anymore.
I still do.
Well, people do, but it's
not
not like they used to.
You used to joke a day, right? Send it
Right?
to 50 of your friends. And you'd have to do it in 5 separate
Right.
texts of 10 people apiece.
But most people will use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger,
Yeah.
Google,
Well, everything's video
Whatever.
even now. I mean,
or they do
the
a
whole
video
reason,
chat.
The whole reason we're doing this
FaceTime
on
on-
video, our podcast, we want audio only. The only way I can get live questions is to do Facebook Live on video. That's the only reason we have this up here, so you guys can ask us questions and we can see them. But we could care less if we're on video. Nobody wants to see this shit. So, bleh. So we got Bryant's question. There goes my microphone. You dirty little bastard. So Corey, my friend Corey, was asking, how do you protect your phones from viruses? The first thing I'd say to that, and in all honesty, is watch what sites you go to. I mean, it's plain and simple. People don't put viruses on your phone. You put viruses on your phone.
Right.
And so watch what you click. If it looks suspicious, don't click on it. Ask the
Yeah.
person who sent it to you, hey, is this real? Because, you can get into some really deep shit. Someone joked with them and said, stay off this adult site or whatever. But,
I'm just going to throw this out there.
yep.
Porn sites are some of the cleanest around as far as your PC goes.
Right.
Like, you're not going to probably get infected by going to
From a real,
from any device.
well, yeah,
You-
but I mean a real porn site. You go to some of these other ones where it's like, oh, look at, here's Molly Ringwald nude. Don't click on that. Don't click on it. Go and search for it yourself. Don't click on it because odds are it's a virus.
We lost our Wi-Fi here.
Oh, me too.
It's reconnecting.
That's not cool.
So it'll be better next week.
Yep.
We're back on.
So yeah, for some
so-
reason our Wi-Fi disconnected.
So
there,
I'm just, we joked around about, don't go to the nudie sites and that, and that you're at far more risk on a PC by going to Facebook,
well,
whatever, any site that has ads.
Yeah.
Because that's the primary method of attack anymore.
Right.
Is they compromise the pictures and the scripts that put ads into your screen when you're browsing the net.
right.
All right. You're better off getting a little piece of software for Chrome called an ad blocker, and there are several out there.
Yep.
Again, that's a topic
use
for
them.
another show. On the mobile phone, there are many antivirus programs. Do your research, find one that you like, and if you find out that the one that you thought was good doesn't work, try the next one. Because almost all of them, at least in some form, have a free component. The one I've always used is called Lookout on Android. I don't know if they have an iPhone version.
Right.
Works for me. They have, the free stuff, the basic free stuff does what I want it to do.
I'll just
But
sit here and
the,
hold this.
They have premium features that I can pay a subscription for, and it's low. It's like $30 a year.
Yeah.
Or $3 a month or something like that. But find one that you like and go with it. I suggest Lookout. It's always done right by me, and I've never had any issues with it. It's pretty low overhead on the phone itself.
Yeah, and I use Avast only because all of it syncs to my PCs, to my mobile phone, everything else Avast does. So it keeps track of everything for me with one app, and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the noise. My microphone keeps falling off the table.
So we have another question. Do you feel safer using a mobile phone or a computer? Clearly a computer. Only because before I click on something, I can see what it is. If if you're in Chrome or Internet Explorer and you put your mouse over a link, the little address that it links to is going to show up down in the bottom of the screen. You can see if it's goes where you think it's supposed to go or not. You can't see that on a mobile phone. So you get a message that looks legit. And it's even fooled me before. My wife got an email that someone was trying to get into her iTunes account, and it looked legit. These aren't the days of old where there were misspellings and, you could just tell by looking at it. But I clicked on the link, and I wasn't paying any attention to the address, and I put in her iTunes credentials, and
Oh,
I caught it right when I hit send. And I closed the window, I went to iTunes, and I logged in. I changed her password immediately.
yeah. Anytime something
So-
suspicious happens,
Yeah.
change your password.
Yeah. The other thing, and we can talk about maybe in another show, but anytime you have an online service or you sign up and they offer what's called two-factor authentication, do it.
Yeah, you were talking about
Do
that
it.
last week. Yeah.
It will save you so much grief if someone tries to get into your account.
Right.
And I use it on Google, I use it on Facebook, I use it everywhere I can. And if you don't know what two-factor authentication is, go ahead and I would just do a search for it. But it's probably going to end up in a podcast in the future.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
Bryant asked, how How about when I have videos sent to my phone from another phone? They always come out blurry. It almost sounds like something with your screen, Brian. You know, when
Yeah.
you're seeing your pictures are blurry and everything. It almost sounds like something with the screen itself. But it could also be that if your iPhone has higher resolution, a lot of times people will send you stuff low res, and when it comes up, it just looks like crap.
Right.
Or it'll be a thumbnail and not a picture, you know, and it just
Yep.
looks dumb. So it's hard to say. I'd have to look at your phone and see what you're talking about and test a couple things, you know, see if we could figure it out. But it almost sounds like there's something weird with your screen itself. So the two questions there by Rob are me. So this is something I've talked to with my wife quite a bit. If you could go back today with all the technologies we have and go to a flip phone or no phone without all this extra crap on it, would you do it?
No.
See, I would in a heartbeat. I feel I'm too accessible now. You know, people can get me on every avenue they can. I turn my data off quite a bit so that
Yeah.
when I leave the house, Facebook's not dinging and this.
Right.
But they, you know, I'm still to the point where it's like, if you want me, call me. And then I can log in with something and look at what you want. But I don't want 50 emails coming in, and
To me, it's not
it's
really a
simple.
matter of accessibility because I have like 0 friends, but I like the
beg to
ability
differ.
to have information at my fingertips.
Right.
When I, especially like a map, Google
Mm-hmm.
Maps, I want to look something up on the internet, it's there.
Right.
As long as I have a good signal, I can
I got
find
you.
what I'm looking for. So the accessibility, I can ignore Facebook messages,
Right.
you know, with the best of them.
Right. But I'm not
But-
just saying that, but work can get a hold of me 10 different ways.
Yeah.
Call me. You know, if you need me, call me.
Yeah.
And I understand about having the information, and I guess I just really could care less if I have that info or not. You know, I can always stop and ask someone if I can't find it. But yeah,
Currently, I'm required to carry a smartphone for work.
right. I am too. Yeah.
So I don't have a choice at this point. If smartphones went away, I mean, clearly I would have no issue going back to a flip phone. But I would probably always have a phone on me,
Right.
you know.
Now, do you have a home phone? At all?
We do. It's part of the package deal we
The
have. through
MediaCom package?
Yeah.
So it's not through CenturyLink,
No.
you know,
Nope.
our standard telephone. So first thing I did when I moved into this house 12 years ago now, 13 years ago, first thing I did, I had a phone line going from the yard to my house. So from a pole in my backyard to my house. I cut it right off my house, and I called CenturyLink. Back then they were
Quest.
Quest. And I said, I have a cable laying in my yard. Can you come take it out for me? Because the previous owners had a buried line for a data line. So they still had a line running over the house and this data line going to my house. I cut it off and said, can you guys come and pick this up? There's a line in my yard. And I think it might even still be sitting on the side of my house over here.
Probably.
But then I went inside my house. I cut all my phone lines out. So I didn't want them
we
anymore.
don't. I've pulled all the phone lines out of my house too.
So, of course, now, you know, that I've been working from home for the last 3 years, I'm like, shit, I sure wish I had a regular phone downstairs so I could do it for my meetings and stuff, you know. And
If it,
so I bought a 100-foot phone cord.
yeah,
It runs from
Right,
my modem down to my room, and then I just put it back when I'm done.
funny.
My wife will come home, and there'll be a big-ass cord. I can go anywhere in the house with this cord. I can go to any room I want. I can go all the
That's
way down to
funny.
the basement.
That's funny.
It's great.
If-
I have mobile technology in my
if
house.
we did not have it as part of our package with
It lowers
Mediacom,
the bill. So stupid.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have it, even though it's been my wife's number for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, she's got her cell phone now, and she said all we get is telemarketing calls on it.
Right. Yeah, nobody calls them.
Nobody calls on it anymore.
That's like my in-laws the other day. I had someone wanting to send me a fax. I'm like, hey, what's your guys' fax number? After umpteen years, they finally got rid of their fax. They're like, we got nothing on it but junk. People would fax us advertisements.
Yep.
Not worth it.
And, you
So-
know, the only other people that call us on it are family who always call our cell phone first, and then when we ignore that, they call the house phone, and you know, we ignore that too. So
Right.
send it to voicemail.
Yeah. So let's real quick. What's your favorite app on your phone?
My favorite app on my phone, probably Bacon Reader. It's a app that I use to look at Reddit.
Okay.
It's a Reddit app, third party Reddit app.
All right.
I do.
So instead of using Reddit itself,
Yeah.
because I have the Reddit
Well,
app on my phone, but
For the longest time, they didn't though.
oh,
They didn't
really?
have an app.
Oh,
Yeah,
ever since I've used Reddit, it's had one, but
how long have you been on Reddit?
not very long.
Yeah, it just
Maybe a
came
year.
out about that time.
I got on Reddit to look at Cards Against Humanity ideas. It's the only reason I got on
Yeah.
Reddit.
But that's probably the one that I use the most, besides Facebook Messenger,
Right.
because
But
that's
that
where
would-
I do most of my messaging.
Would you say that's your favorite app though, or it's just your most used?
What, the Bacon Reader?
No, your
Or
Facebook app.
That's probably my most used. Is the Messenger, but
Right.
my favorite app is Bacon Reader.
yeah. So I think I'd have two. Mr. Number, I love it.
I love that's a great app.
Yeah, I use that. I mean, it's great. It tells me if who's calling. If it's spam, it'll tell you what spam it is that's called. Because sometimes you do, someone will send a survey or something that I do
Yeah.
want to partake in.
Right.
I'll know who it is, but then it'll
Right.
come up, possible spam, blah, blah, blah. And I can take that if it's one that calls me constantly, and I say, answer and hang up, and it automatically does that for you.
Yep.
It's great.
Mr. Number. I love it for the call blocking.
And
It's
then
awesome.
the other app that's my favorite, even though it's silly, but there's Who Deleted Me or Who Unfriended Me on Facebook.
Yeah.
So there's an app, and it just goes and scans your friend list, and then it goes and scans any changes. So if someone unfriended me, it'll go say, oh, that profile still exists. They had to have unfriended you. But they could say I don't know how it does this. It must look anonymously as well, because it'll say this person's blocked you.
Oh,
Or
okay.
it'll say this person closed their account because they can't find record of it anywhere.
There's a new
So-
there's a new option when you go to unfriend somebody now. It's called take a break.
Right?
Yeah, and because there's
That's a
some people
serious
that
option on there?
I'm not kidding. You take a break.
Really?
Yeah, so you don't have to unfriend them. You can just take a break, and I don't know if it prompts you to say for how long
Right.
or what, because I've never clicked on it. but-
Wow.
Don't unfriend me, you
No, I
bastard.
wouldn't. I can unfriend my wife. She doesn't post anything. But I do like that you can see people first and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I do like they're coming out with more and more Facebook apps specific to groups and pages, and so I can manage all of our pages from a
Yeah.
single app, not from Facebook, because
Yep.
Facebook app itself got so big
I
that
I got rid of
encumbered
the
too much.
Facebook app. I just used my Chrome browser on my
Yep.
Android phone to log into Facebook and do it that way. The app it would drain my battery in half a day.
Oh,
I got rid of it.
because you don't
I
play
have no
Pokemon
issues.
Go, because that drains your battery. I keep mine on a charger almost all the time, so
So
I have a lot of apps like that do
But-
that.
yeah, no, I got rid of the Facebook app. So anybody out there, if you're having battery issues and you don't play Pokemon Go, get rid of the Facebook app. You'll be amazed at the difference.
there's actually apps out there too that'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
how much battery usage certain apps are using, which
Yep.
of course it uses some battery usage on its own, but it's kind of nice. My phone, I've got an LG G4, has that built into it. So it'll come up and say, hey, this app is draining your battery at a rate of this. You might want to stop that app if you're not using it. So the Weather Channel comes up all the time on mine.
Yeah.
It uses a high amount
Mm-hmm.
because and anything that uses location
Yes.
and GPS
Yes.
will chew your account. So that's why Facebook, you can actually turn that off. It'll save your battery a little bit. So
A little bit.
and you should turn that off anyways. Don't let Facebook know where you're at all the time. It's just a bad idea, especially if you're with kids and all that. You don't want that.
What's your least used app? You have to look through your phone. I
N-
have apps
NFL
on my
football.
phone that I never open.
Yeah, anything that came with Verizon.
Yeah, I disable all those.
I disable them, but you can't delete them.
No, you can't delete them.
You can't get
But
rid
you
of
can
them.
disable them. It'll hide the icon and all
Right,
that. But
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I'm trying to think because I look through my apps every now and then. There's a couple of them that I look at them like, why do I even still have that? But I
Right.
don't uninstall it because
Right.
I don't know.
I do. I honestly, the thing is, I can always go back. And the cool thing is, you can log into Google on your computer
Yeah.
and say, hey, I want this app back. And it'll reinstall it to my phone without me having to be on my phone.
Yes.
And I can, like, I'll be like, hey, wife, there's this cool app. I think you should have it. I can log into her Google account and go to the Play Store and say, send it to this device.
Yep.
And she'll have it, you know. So it's kind of fun to throw stupid
That
stuff over there.
that to me, okay. The advantages of Android over iPhone are Play Store specific because that is the biggest piece of shit software I've ever used in my life.
What is?
The iTunes store.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the fuckery. I
Right.
hate that piece.
It's,
Oh
it's
my
not
god.
as easy.
No.
Everything-
It asks you for your password every time you install multiple times.
You can change that, but what I don't like, and I don't know if it still happens because it didn't happen to me last time, but for me to use the iTunes store or the iStore,
Yeah.
it wanted credit card information, and I don't think it does that anymore. But for a while
Yes,
it did.
it does.
I've got that iPhone in there, and I didn't put anything in. So
I don't know then.
I think the first time you try to buy something, it does it. But the
When
free
you
apps,
set
it
up
does it
your
free.
iTunes account, because I had to do this with granddaughter's, she got an iPod Touch.
Yep.
We had to put in a credit card number,
Yeah.
and then as soon as the account was created, go in and delete the credit card.
Yeah, and there's actually instructions on there how to get around that, so you don't have to enter that number. But it's not easy,
It's
and
just
it's
a pain.
yeah.
And then every time she wants to put on an app like Minecraft or
yes,
Snapchat or whatever, enter the password.
Right.
And the keyboard is so fucking small.
Yeah.
You can't fucking type that shit. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh.
when did you turn Scottish?
Oh my god. Oh laddie, the son of a bitches are going down. Yeah. Oh, it infuriates me, and my wife just goes ballistic. That fucking iTunes password shit.
Oh god.
Oh, like
so,
this.
so get her an Android tablet next Christmas.
She has an Android tablet
Yeah.
finally.
Every
And she uses
Black Friday I buy another one because they're always up
We
to
ended
date
up-
with the newest OS, and they're great. They last a couple years, and the OS goes to shit because they're just not upgradable. They're cheap tablets on Black Friday, but so I always get one for like $10.
Right. So we're gonna wrap up.
Yep.
The last thing I want to say about iPhone versus Android and the difference is iPhone is Apple specific. You run it on Apple hardware. It's an Apple device. It's an Apple software. It's all Apple. Android is hardware agnostic. As long as the hardware meets the spec, you can run Android on it. And so you can buy a mobile device from any manufacturer with Android software on it. And they all work generally the same.
Yeah, and they all tie into Google, which I love.
And they all tie
But-
back into Google.
You can tie iPhones into Google too and do the same thing.
You can,
So
but yeah,
the most people don't, but you can.
So we'll leave you with that.
Do we have any more? Mine actually quit working over here. So
I don't have any more.
All right, cool.
have any
We'll
more.
lock it up. I was trying to look up what we can talk about next week, but again, next week we'll actually have Wi-Fi out here in the garage that's usable. So this will all work a little smoother.
We hope.
Every week things are getting better. We got these fancy stands that kept sliding off my table. So it's getting better. And thanks again, everybody, for watching
Yep.
and for your questions. We'll post the next topic here as soon as we figure out what it's going to be. And really, we appreciate it. We know it can be boring to sit there and watch two bald guys talk about shit. So,
But at least we have clothes on this week.
right. Yeah,
that was awkward last week.
I was all right with it. But yeah, no, we seriously appreciate it, and thanks, guys.
Stay mobile.
see
Stay
you
in
next
touch.
time. Thanks. Other than this fucking thing falling.